and welcome to Decision 2026. Tonight's question is one shaping every opposition meeting, strategy meeting in the country. Can coalition politics really reshape the election? And if so, what kind of coalition should Gambians trust? The 2016 coalition changed Gambian history. It also exposed the challenges of governing together. Today, we consider these questions. What lessons were learned? What is different in 2026? And are today's coalition talks built on principle or political arithmetic? Joining me are my colleagues, Mr. Ali Sise, sitting on my immediate left. He is the anchor of our flagship current affairs program, State of Affairs. Welcome, Aliu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mboj. It's a pleasure to be back on the program, and we're looking forward to an insightful conversation.
Absolutely. And on my far left is Mr. Ibrahim Dabo of QTV. It's an in-house affair, isn't it?
Thank you, and it's a pleasure once again.
Yeah.
I think this is the third edition, and I believe it's going to be a very
one
good
step
discussion.
at a time, one step at a time, it is said.
Yeah.
And on my right here, I have Mr. Ibrahim Nyang. He's the Administrative Secretary of the Gambia Democratic Congress, GDC. Yes, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mboj, to Aliu, to my brother, and Tom. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. And on Aliu's left, I've got Mr. Kemu Bojang. He's the Deputy Leader for Political Matters and Media Relations, UMC, Unite Movement for Change. Yeah. Welcome to the program.
Unite. Thank you so much. I'm just saying that from UMC now to just Unite.
Just Unite?
Yes.
Absolutely. Thanks for the rectification there.
It's a pleasure.
Much appreciated. So, gentlemen, welcome. Well, where do we begin? We have to set the stage, don't we? Talk about coalitions generally. In one sentence, I suppose, what should the coalition achieve that one party cannot? Can you begin with you?
Yeah, I can say many good ideas because, as the saying goes, two heads are better than one, and we believe coming together will create the enabling environment to tap more good ideas from almost all the opposition political party. It will be way forward, and it will create more of an inclusive government where everybody can see themselves in.
Mr. Bojang?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mboj, once more. For us, when at Unite, the idea of coalition is an idea, and it's more about being practical and not just theoretical. We find it more so a necessity in 2016, for example, where we had to change a government that we had in place. But in 2016, for example, the idea was to change the government of the day by any means necessary. Now in 2026, I believe times have changed, dynamics have changed. It is no more by any means necessary. Now coalition partners are looking at what works, the Gambian citizens are looking at what works best. They're looking at governors, not just political leaders. They're looking at changing the dynamics of the country and shifting the narrative from being, from hunger, from insecurity, from, poor healthcare, to making sure that there's a government that answers the questions that the people are asking. Now, I continue to say, granted, it's fantastic that opposition parties are coming together, but also we need to show Gambians that they can do it even without a coalition. The power is with the people and not with us, the political actors. Now, if Gambians unite and say that we want a certain candidate, regardless if it's a coalition or not, the candidate will win. So the power is with the people, in as much as this is what they're asking for, but we need to be able to also show them that the decision is yours. Now, we have had good conversations. My brother and myself are at the coalition discussion, and things are going well, and we hope to see what comes out.
Okay, thank you. Actually, there should be another guest, and I understand that he has arrived. Mr. Haji Suwane, he's the National Youth President of UDP. Well, he'll have to answer the same question, I suppose. He's about to take his seat, and then I'll put the same question to him. Yes. Good. Welcome to the program, Mr. Suwane.
Mr. Mboj, thank you for having me.
Yes.
And my apologies for the late, appearances here. And my colleagues, thank you, everybody. Once again, looking forward to a fruitful discussion.
Absolutely. Before you came, I asked one question to the panel that, you know, what should a coalition achieve, yeah, that a one party cannot? What would be your answer to that?
One thing the UDP believe coalition, first of all, public perceptions are there. Gambians has to come together to be able to face the incumbent, and then if the status quo is to be changed. But generally, coalition trust is an idea that I had my colleagues saying it before I take up my seat, that one head is better than, two head is better than one. So that notion tells you that if you come together as a group, you became more powerful, not only in terms of convincing people, but in different ideas, different approaches, different strategies that if brainstormed together can have an alternative to the current system we are faced with.
Two heads are better than one. Aliu.
Yeah, I mean, for me, you talk about coalition, what coalition can achieve, that one party can achieve. I mean, certainly we know, I mean, it was in 2016 that we had a democratic change of government, and we saw what happened, even though, I mean, at the time, the entire focus was just on how to remove the Jammeh regime, and we saw how the parties, 7 parties and an independent came together to be able to remove the incumbent. But like you said, I mean, forming a coalition for me is not just like an electoral arrangement. You know, it's more like political parties coming together with a shared vision that, you know, we want to do this, and post the election, we want to continue to govern, or we want to change the system that is in place. But like you said, I mean, it's never easy, because for any coalition to succeed, trust is very key. And from past experiences that we have seen, that has always been a bottleneck to form a coalition. Because like I said, I mean, the problem in the Gambia is like winner takes all. Yeah. So, and because of that, and because of what we have seen happen in the Gambia in the past and in other countries, sometimes that trust is always a problem, especially when it comes to power sharing.
We'll come to that. Yeah. Mr. Davo.
Yeah. Thank you. So I think having a panel like this shows that seriously the Gambia is at work. And also the Gambia trusts in its young people in a certain way, looking at the people seated at the panel here. And it also shows that in a certain way that young people are up to task to ensure that they bring about the change that a lot of Gambians are calling for. But looking at the coalition discussions, we've seen that unity is always a strength. That's what we've seen in 2016, you know, because through a coalition, we were able to get rid of an authoritarian system, you know, in the Gambia. And we've also seen in 2016 that the Gambians have seen their aspirations in a more united opposition than just a fragmented system. You know, 2016 has manifested that. And then we are at a stage where, you know, there are a lot of talks as to people believing in a united opposition. So let's see how it will go. But then I think the idea of the opposition coming together is a common belief. But then how the negotiations and everything will go at the end of the day depends on these parties that are having the negotiation.
Absolutely. So now, to our next question, still we are dealing with setting the scene. What exactly is a coalition? What's the difference with an alliance? I know that in common parlance, the two are interchangeable. Yeah. But maybe there's a problem with that, isn't it? An alliance, we are told by certain political scientists, is like the arrangement we have before an election. It's a vote pooling strategy. Whereas coalition is after elections, smaller parties, bigger parties coming together, forming a government. It's a power sharing thing. Don't you think perhaps we'll get to this, the lessons of 2016? It was really an alliance because the degree of detail that you need for a coalition wasn't there. Yeah. What do you think, the difference between coalition and alliance, and how that can impact afterwards, how things pan out? Yeah. Should I come to you first?
Want to go first or should I?
No. Yes. You want to go, Mr. Bojan?
So for us at UNITE, and I think we've always said this, that we wanted to get into a union that values ethics, that has value, and not just for the sake of it. Now, you've made mention and pointed to a precedence that has taken place in 2016, whereas I think, or I believe at the time, the coalition was ready for change, but we was not ready for what happens after the change. Now, you see, this is why it was so difficult to even set up cabinet. It took almost 2 months to have cabinet in place. You know, we couldn't agree on either we were going into the parliamentary elections as independent parties of our own, or we were going into it as a coalition. There are other positions of also even how many parties would share cabinet positions. So these are all challenges that 2016 faced, because I think, like I mentioned earlier, that 2016 was a necessity. That people just felt that we needed a coalition to change a government. But now you have a more freer society, you have a more open society, you have people having conversations. Granted, people still feel that the coalition is necessary, but they wouldn't just vote for a coalition just for the sake of it. Now, this is where we need to focus on as partners or as stakeholders in the conversation. But it has always been my position, and I know I disagree with a lot of people at the talks. Mr. Nyan could say, when I say that we need to take this back to the people. We need to center the people that matter. Because you are not just asking your party members to vote for you in an election. You are asking the general public to vote for you. Now, majority of Gambia are not card-carrying members of political parties. Now, I can say out of the politicians in this room, maybe 3 of you on this panel are not card-carrying members of parties. And it's the same in a lot of societies or a lot of segments you go into. Now, what people are looking at is we have questions, we need answers, and who are going to give us these answers? Now, I mean, I heard a panelist of another program some time ago on the TV say that 2021 was a protest vote. Was it yes or no? That is up to subjective answers. But again, I think this is why we have put in frameworks, for example. We have worked on this because it's been 13 weeks that we have had conversations where we have agreed on the type of coalition we want to get into, which is a candidate-led coalition that was agreed by partners. We have got into the framework of positioning of how do we want to even, I think Saturday we were discussing power sharing modalities. So an introduction has already been made. So a lot of these things are, taking place, and indeed, political entities are also fruitful in the conversations we're having, but we also need to be, open to the concept that indeed, consensus are going to be built. Now, how do these consensus get built is something that would be based on the stakeholders' position. But in a nutshell, a framework has been accepted. A type of coalition has been accepted. So I believe the mistakes that were made in 2016 are learning processes that we have learned from, because everybody in that room says we need to improve on what we had. We need to improve on what we had, and this is what is going on now.
Absolutely. Before I come to you, Mr. Swane, candidate-led coalition, agreed. Is it true? And then please just address this alliance coalition thing as well.
First of all, to start it with the alliance and then the coalition, definition by different people. For us, I believe alliances are what political parties, pre-elections. Alliance are the proper words to use. Alliance are not more of power concentration. Alliance are more of policy reconciliations, and within which, if you form a government, then the issues that were affecting the government, the people, by the outgoing government in place, would be, looked at a bigger and a wider picture instead of limiting it to the people involved, like what we call a coalition, because coalitions are more of precise when governments cannot be made without having majority in a parliamentary system. That will push the other side to reconcile even with those they don't even share the same ideologies, but to compromise to be able to get a government in place that will be running the day-to-day affairs of that particular country. In our situation, for those we believe we are not in that system. We are in a system whereby we are governed by a constitution that gave the executive, particularly or specifically the president, the discretion to be able to appoint and fire. So if we have to build any, partnership, in terms of being in such authority, first thing that you should consider is trust. If you trust each other as political parties, build alliance.
We'll come to the idea of trust later. So here you've made your distinction very well between alliance and coalition. Now, candidate-led or party-led? He mentioned candidate-led.
That is what that is what is leading me to the candidate-led.
Cheers, okay.
That's why I mentioned trust.
Yes.
I believe I'm not against purely a candidate-led, but I believe in alliance formation like this, party-led would be the befitting, position if the coalition, if the particular negotiations ongoing had taken, because it will boost public confidence, it will widen up the objective of the partnership to open doors for those outside of that particular alliances to see themselves within that governance system. But if you concentrate on a coalition, it will lead you, obviously, to power sharing. And whenever you want to talk about power sharing, it might limit to only those involved in that particular coalition building. That is why, for me, and particularly for my party, our position is alliances, building trust among the coalition partners, ensuring public confidence by highlighting issues that is affecting their day-to-day life that include economic reform, civil service reform, constitutional reform, and in general, governance reform.
Absolutely.
So that is why we supported the alliance or the party-led alliance.
Granted. So you are not against candidate-led, just that you prefer party-led.
Yes.
Mr. Nyang?
Yes. Basically, I would not want to carry on with the same debate, just as I had it with my other lecturer, about whether it is alliance or a coalition. So let's move on. But basically, what I can say, just as Kemo mentioned, we are in our 13th week. We are moving to the 14th week. And that's simply looking at the months that we have passed is because we want to get it right, different from the 2016. Because for 2016, it's not about everything being bad, but I think we can also use it as a learning process. And that's exactly what we are doing. And so far, I think Gambians, I can assure them that this will be more of a viable coalition that can deliver and meet in their needs and aspirations compared to the 2016 coalition. Because the concentration is not only centered within the power, but is centered within the good ideas that are in the room. And just as I stated earlier on, where you have more heads, we believe we can have more good ideas. More experienced people are in the room. That's why I'm so much hopeful with what we achieved so far. That simply shows the commitment of every political entities in the room. Because 2016, we had it in different platforms where one will get up and say where the agreement was signed. So we believe that that commitment should be inside among parties, movements. They should take up that responsibility, agree on something that is clear to everybody, that will create the pathway to make sure that at least we know exactly what we want to achieve. That's why part of the program in the manifesto, we are trying to build a program that is a manifesto. And this manifesto will be the one that we plan to run the country if we happen to win in 2026. Basically, I believe with the frameworks that we so far achieve and what is in the pipeline, we believe we will get there and we will deliver a coalition, a credible one, that we believe Gambians can have hope in, Gambians can vote, and a coalition that will deliver in meeting the needs and the aspirations of the Gambian people. In the issue of the candidate-led and party-led, what is adopted at the coalition level is candidate-led, because there was a voting that took place and the majority said they are in for candidate-led. So I believe that is so far is the position of the party, because it has been adopted in our last sitting officially now to become a position of the coalition.
But it's not unanimous. You've got people who say no.
No, because the concentration more is on consensus. Yeah. Then if consensus fail, we move to voting. So, yeah.
Mr. Davo, question or remark from what we've heard so far?
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because he said the concentration there is on consensus.
Yeah.
And then if you don't reach a consensus, that's where you go to a vote. Yeah. And then after a voting process, it has emerged that majority of the people within the coalition process, which is 17 political entities.
We are 20.
20 political entities. Majority of them accepted a candidate-led coalition. Yeah. And then one of the parties against it, as Mr. Suwane said, is where he comes from, the UDP. So that's exactly where I want to come to, Mr. Swane. Does that mean, are you ready to make a compromise in order to get to the position where others are for you to stay within the coalition discussions?
Yeah, compromises has been made because we have people who are representing us in that negotiations. I know a lot of compromises were done, but there are some principles, some based on constitutionality of such agreements, and also the partnership that we are trying to build. There are issues whereby you cannot compromise those ones because they might not be realistic. And as we all agree that there are issues, even though we might not definitely disagree with everything that the Coalition 2016 has achieved, but there were issues also, which include unconstitutionalities to some people's own views. In forming a coalition, you must understand that any agreement that contradicts the Constitution became null and void.
So what will you not compromise?
We will not compromise, for example, things like going against the, let's say, the discretion of the executive, one of them, forming subcommittees that will be purely being able to influence the decision-making of the executive. Those are things that might not be realistic. Because if you vote me in power based on those agreements, if the particular person exercises his or her constitutional right to do things that he or she believes is in line with the Constitution, partners might see it's a betrayal. So, and they said, if you want to enter in a dark forest, partners must definitely show each other at the entry point that when we enter, here is supposed to be the meeting place after entry. But a forest that you might not be shouting to be able to get my voice, I might not be able to get your voice, if you don't tell each other the final destination of meeting destination point, it might lead to a kind of a separation that both sides might regret. So for the UDP, we believe constitutionality matters a lot. Even if you might not agree with all the things that the 1997 Constitution stated, but yet still it serves as the supreme law of the land. So any agreement that partners are supposed to put in place, there should be in cognizance with the fact that there is a constitution that supersedes every process. So if you go against those principles, you might lead to having a government again, instead of fighting to try to get Gambian people the next level of development, it might limit or reduce the government to fighting each other. So if you sense that as genuine and who is somebody into a negotiation with good faith, you must clearly state your view on those kind of upcoming issues that might have affect what I stated, trust. Because coalitions should not be made only today. We should not also forget that there will be another political entities who might be able to think about how to form a coalition to fight against a system, another system. Coalition 2016 taught us that Gambians started losing trust in political parties because of that betrayal trend. So the UDP is putting its mind on what the agreement stated, how are they stated, and what are going to be their consequences if agreed upon when that particular government is elected in coalition is elected in place, which will be the consequence that the general voters will be going through. So our position is there are issues that we cannot compromise, which goes purely and solely against the discretion of the executive, forming committees like some might say there might be a committee that they call governing council that will anyway influence the decision making of the executive.
Yes, sorry, Mr. Mboy, one more time. But Mr. Swane, is it not the fact that your party believe probably that you have a political strength, and by virtue of that strength, you should automatically lead the coalition? Is that not the case?
That is part of the cases, but not actually the case that we are giving a different view. Our case for a party that is holding the larger voter population as an opposition or single party, that is evident for every Gambian to know. And all of us would agree that, politics is a number game. And if we agree that politics is a number game, you are not going against my position because of incompetence. You are not going against my position because of integrity issues. You are not going against my position because of allegations of malpractice or corruption. But purely on issues we believe are human-created, political gymnastics against an individual, leading you to a campaign that might discourage that particular person to participate.
Mr. Suhane, no. I think we are veering off track here. So now let's move on. We'll come back to you. Now, you will come later. I want your response there.
Yes.
Two things very interesting. The idea of constitutionality we saw in 2016. Everybody knew that the Constitution stated that it was about 5 years. But there was a compromise. Is this sort of thing allowed? He said it's purely constitutionality. So would it be allowed for the sake of compromise? We say that we know that the Constitution says 5, but just to get a compromise that we want, we can do 3. Stuff like that. That's one.
Yeah.
Politics is a numbers game.
Yeah.
Your response.
Basically, I believe, to be honest, nobody will downplay any number that any political party has, because the most important thing why we are together is we believe coming together will add value in what we are doing. One, coming together will give us more numbers, even though we will have an individual who will lead the project. So because today, going by the 1997 Constitution, even with 1 vote, you can be a president. With 1 vote, you can also leave the State House. So that's why everybody in that room counts. So when it comes to issues like that, we believe it is very instrumental to have everybody on board to make sure that at the end of the day, we can all stay together. Because remember, the change that we want to bring, or the NPP that we want to defeat in December, they are in a coalition already. So I think having us in a coalition is very instrumental. So for that being the case, as I believe, with this term, what we agreed, because we have seen the 3 years scenario and how it ended, but even though it is a matter of moral contract, do you understand? It's a matter of moral contract that you have with the individual, but it was never wrong for Barrow to resign after 3 years.
Exactly.
It was never wrong. So what we agreed at our own level is, before we get to the same position, why not we just have a complete term? So we believe with that, it is backed by the Constitution. And one thing that I would want to emphasize more is we are in a coalition where we welcome the view and the ideas of everybody. Even when it comes to the governing council, these are ideas that others believe they have, which is yet to be tabled. Which is yet to be tabled even in our General Assembly. So it is yet to be subjected to review or subjected to negotiation. But we believe this is the kind of platform that you can build where you entertain every good idea, because as far as we are concerned, there is no bad idea. Because the idea of governing council, maybe the person has good reason why he wants to propose this. And I believe it is important for us also to listen to it. But with the candidate-led and the party-led, I believe UDP, as they rightly stated, they have so many things that they compromise. The same goes with UNITE, the same goes with GDC, and the rest of the political parties. And I think because we want to achieve something that we believe to be more guaranteed, it must go through a process. That's why all of us are in a room. So irrespective whether it is going to be a candidate-led with majority supports, we believe, as far as we are concerned as the GDC, our argument was it will be more inclusive. Because remember, we are in a room not only with political parties, but with movements. Now, if you want to conclude, if you want to conclude now of having a candidate from a party, then that means you basically shut the door for independence.
Okay.
So that was our main argument on this.
That's it. I get your point perfectly well. I believe that some ideas are bad, but that's my prejudices. A moral contract, is that really a contract? And somebody can say that even to both of you, because you don't have the numbers, so you wouldn't go for a party-led, it's just a candidate-led. Yeah, respond to that and with this as well.
So, Samboja, I just wanted to also clarify that in that room, there's no agreement that is reached that is contravened to the Constitution of the Gambia. Everything that's been done in that room is in accordance, because there were suggestions to even bring in, let's say, the age of the candidate to a higher level. I believe I was the one who went against that, to say that this is a biological positioning that nobody has control over. So you can't bring in something that is disadvantageous to to a certain segment of society.
BSc?
Yes. Even the bachelor's degree that we said we were gonna was going to come on, I supported that, but some other person said no, because not everybody in this room has a BSc, right? And so I just wanted to clarify that for the viewers watching this program, to know that any law or any agreement that is being reached in that room is in accordance with law. And secondly, the second question was?
The numbers.
The numbers.
Yes.
I mean, I think
it's a numbers game.
I mean, anybody can sit and say, they have the numbers. And in as much as we do agree that past electoral results are a good pinpoint to determine this, but we can't also forget that politics is a dynamic game. Today you can be the biggest, tomorrow you're the smallest. In 2011, President Jammeh won by 71%. In 2016, he lost with 46, 48%. So that tells you that nothing is static even GDC, for example, in 2017 had 5 to 6 members of parliament. In 2023 or 2022, it was difficult for them to keep those seats. APRC Noto Alliance, came out of nowhere and had 5 candidates and won 5 elections. So in as much as we do understand that the numbers are important, past electoral results are important, but we don't believe that it should be a defining factor. We believe that it should be a guiding principle, but it should not be what will define it. Personally, if you ask me today, I think UNITE is top 2 biggest political parties in this country. Now, not everybody will agree with that.
Based on what? What information are you relying on?
Yeah, so for example, today, Mr. Mboj, we have 1,800 settlements in this country. UNITE has been able to build structures in each of those settlements. Now, that talks about our structure. We have 116 to 118 wards in this country. We have been able to build structures in each ward. We have 54 constituencies in this, 53 constituencies in this country. UNITE has been able to build a structure in each constituency. We have regions in this country. We have been able to build structures in all of our regions.
Still, that's not a poll.
I didn't get you?
That's still not a poll.
It's not a poll,
So,
yes, but
what can I extrapolate from that?
But for example, what this is trying to show you is that we have people everywhere in this country, right? And we have people representing and canvassing for votes in all of these settlements. There's going to be a poll that's going to come out, multiple polls before the elections, and we have forecasted based on, and this is based on internal numbers we have, based on registration. Because I had this conversation with someone that majority of parties in this country say I am the biggest based on electoral result, but not based on membership data. This is an advantage UNITE has. We have membership data that we have been able to correlate. Based on results of election, we know where we stand today. And our party leader has said something in the past to say that by September, we will be the biggest political entity in this country. And we have reasons of saying this, and we believe this will come to pass. Now, before September to December is also a long time. Politics is dynamic. And this is why we are not pompous enough to say that we are the biggest, so everybody should come join us. We do understand that, like my good brother has said, that it's a first past the poll system. Now, even if someone has, in the past by-election in Fonyi, I think the difference was less than 10 votes. So that determines that even a movement with 10 people can determine an election result.
Absolutely. Aliu?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mboj. I've been waiting. I mean, but it's good that you finally turned to me. You see, to be honest with you, I mean, listening to Haji, the candidate led, the party led, if you ask me, for me, it makes no difference at the end of the day.
People just want change.
Exactly. Candidate or party led, what people want or what the opposition want as far as this whole coalition thing is concerned is just to change the system which is in place. That's the bottom line. And now, like I said, I mean, in our laws, I mean, it's different from other countries. And from what we have learned in the past is that even if you agree, yes, I believe for any coalition to be successful, you must have that in agreements, and you've just mentioned that. That mutual trust must be there. But not just that also, even effective conflict resolution mechanism. We see it happens post-election. You see, this is just one step. You know, it's very easy to win and you see there, but governance is much more difficult than, trying to change the system. Yeah? And you ask me again, I might be wrong, but to be honest with you, I don't foresee this thing happening because already I'm hearing, different views here.
Just say it.
Party-led, party-led, candidate-led. Party-led, candidate-led. And no, not honest, not honest.
No, it doesn't make
Yes.
a coalition, to stop being formed. These are things that we encourage in our democracy.
I know.
They introduce themselves as people representing their parties in a coalition.
No,
right?
I quite agree.
That's why when I'm talking, I use my opinion.
Exactly, yes, I know.
Not my
So
party.
what I'm saying is that in the event, I'm not saying that's,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what in the event, okay, they said Talib is the candidate.
Yeah.
Will the UDP agree to be led by Talib in a coalition? I don't foresee that happening.
Yeah. Maybe.
Haji can help me answer that question.
Would you?
Kemo, if Usenu is selected as the candidate or the leader, will you unite agree to stay in coalition?
So for us, it's based on a process.
Okay.
So, Mr. Zise, first of all, I just want to also clarify something. In this country, we've never had an election where you've had one grand coalition against the incumbent. We've had, in some elections, multiple coalitions in the election. In some, we've had parties go on their own with a coalition with the incumbent.
And most of them have failed. It was only in 2016
Well,
that we saw that.
And 1962, we also succeeded.
Yes.
Yeah. So it wasn't just one. Yeah. But
That was before independence.
Well, that was that was the referendum for independence.
Exactly,
Yeah, but what I'm just trying to say is that even in 2016, not everybody was in the same team.
Yeah,
GDC was
in
on their own,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So it depends on, this is why I kept saying, and I started by saying that it's based on the power of the Gambian people.
Yeah.
They have the power to make anybody president. But we have spent 13 weeks in a process. We have gone this far. Every weekend we're at the venue from morning till in the evening. Now, if the process comes out and says that so-and-so is the candidate, I see no reason why we shouldn't follow it.
So now I want to know from you, Kemo, and of course Ibrahim and Haji. You're saying, okay, you've agreed for a candidate late. What happens? Will that individual resign from the party that he comes from, or what?
Yeah.
Because this is where the issues will come in.
Yeah.
Once you win and you enter State House, man, it's a different ball game.
So just to...
So I want to make me
just to be
understand
more
what is
broad
the
on
agreement
that,
as far as...
Just to be more broad on that,
Yeah.
what we did even before the voting took place, or before the voting took place, what we did was there was a presentation on this. That is on what is candidate-led in details and what is party-led in details. And obviously, as candidate-led is being adopted, for example, now let us say if Honorable Kande should be the flag bearer, he should resign from the GDC to lead the project.
And also, just to add on to that, in 2016, partners and stakeholders came out to say, "Can Moma one sign a document?" We are not going to go through that. We already have a framework in place. We already have guiding principles. Our spokesperson for the coalition, Mr. San Martin, came out to say that we even have conflict resolution positions. Now, on a normal basis, he should have been the one here to speak for the coalition. But because we are active players since the beginning, we can also speak for it. But I want to say whatever we're doing is going to be binding to all members. So this is why I made mention that we can't spend all of this time in a process and say, okay, just because so-and-so has been chosen as candidate, we're going to see what.
Mr. Dabo, and then you will come back. You will be next. Your response.
I think what Mr. Bojang is saying is exactly where I want to get to. Now, in 2016, when the coalition came into government, later when there were debates as to 3 years or no 5 years, the contention was bring out the agreement that we have signed, and then that become a national debate. So if there is a coalition discussion now, and you've created a framework and a structure as to what will be a guiding principle for all the members of the coalition that you're going to sign up to, I think that in one way solve that dilemma from 2016. But one other thing that you have all agreed in your other thing is the eligibility criteria for the candidate who is going to lead your coalition. So who is qualified to lead now?
But I think before you go there...
I was...
Okay, Haji. Come on, Haji.
Yes, okay.
Yes, I don't want to go into that first.
Okay.
Aliu raised an issue of candidate-led and also this party-led. We need to put things in record. The reason why I'm using my opinion in this is that why would it be necessary for somebody
You
leading?
mean your opinion is not representative of UDPs? Is that what you're trying to tell us?
I'm not representing UDP in the coalition talk, okay?
Okay, granted, but I would like to think that your view
Yes.
would be the party view.
Will be in line with the party views.
Will be in line.
Exactly.
With the party views. All right.
Candidate led. GDC had already a candidate, or UDP already had a candidate. The movements or the non-registered political parties already knew when they are contesting for elections, they are going to contest by the law as independent, not in the name of a particular organization they are within. Already when parties had candidates, when the coalition is making an agreement for a party lead, they are making an agreement because of the candidate chosen by the party to lead that particular alliances or coalition, if you want, if you like. If the movement is chosen, the candidate of the movement is the one who is going to be supported by partners in the alliances or within the coalition, if you want to put it. So why would it be necessary for somebody to resign from your political party to contest as a candidate led in that particular organization?
Yeah, Mr.
If
Moore,
already,
I don't want to interject.
Wait. Just hold it. Why is it necessary?
if already
You will come back.
the law has qualified both the movement and the political party candidate to contest within their various and respectful organizations to lead any presidential election, parliamentary, or councillorship, mayor, if you want. So for me, this is where they are creating the mistrust. This means that you don't, or the distrust, you don't trust DOI. But DOI candidate can resign from DOI and lead a coalition. The agreement might be signed, but if you don't trust DOI, that DOI candidate supported, by a coalition without resigning from DOI might betray the coalition if elected in power. What is going to stop that candidate who resigned from DOI to contest when the existing laws that govern us give that particular candidate the discretion to do or take any decision in line with the constitution, even though that agreement exists? So parties, when we are approaching things, for me, I believe you must be realistic. Look at in a holistic way, not with a kind of a short lens. But the bigger picture is that trust is the fundamental thing that these players, the stakeholders, should be building. If they build any coalition formation on trust, I'm telling you, even if they don't sign a dime on paper, that particular coalition will deliver on behalf of the people, not for themselves or on selfish interests. But if you create a distrust before being in government, what will happen? What you are running away from is going to be from the frying pan to the fire.
Listen, Mr. Yang, you said you wanted to come in.
Yes,
so
just quick
it seems that you're talking about trust, but
Yes.
whoever the candidate is, you don't want much discretion for him. You want the party to decide.
Yeah.
Come in.
Yeah, just a quick intervention. Basically, for the candidate-led and for the party-led, it's not a matter of trust as far as we are concerned. I can say that because we have these two which were tabled before everybody. So as I stated, most of the people that voted for the candidate-led, they voted in line of inclusiveness. Because remember, even before we first voted on this, by that time, UNITE was a movement. It was not a legally registered political party. And I can tell you, the movements, they dominated the room inside there. And still now they dominate the room.
No, wait, just wait. Let's note it down. No, note it down. Note it down.
No, what
Note it down. Okay, granted.
No, what I broadly want to explain is, today, if we said, for example, if we had stick with the party-led, obviously, that means the candidate must come from a legally registered political party.
No.
Not necessarily.
Yes.
No, not necessarily.
No, because we have the registered political parties and we have the movements.
And that
So
does not stop them from being a party.
No,
That's what we
but it's coming back to the same thing.
But if you're not registered, can you contest?
Yes.
That's not in their.
Huh? Contest
That's
as a
not
party.
in their.
No, that is
There's
it.
nothing like
So-
if you are not registered as a political party.
So-
No. There's a party.
So I think basically,
Granted,
basically
but would
what
you
we-
agree that if you are not registered with the IEC, you cannot contest?
As a
No.
party.
As a party.
Has a party, but the candidate already by that particular movement unregistered, which is that is
Yes.
why they
So this is it.
No,
So
at the
under
first
which
place,
because-
I believe at the, Skemo, sorry, I
Yes.
believe at the first place, if they would be rejected because of they are not going to be registered, the criteria would outline that anybody who is coming to participate in this negotiation, you must be first a registered political party. But that was not the case. It was an open invitation.
No, can I come in there?
No, it was an
Yes.
open invitation.
Maybe I can come there.
I'm with the notion that the law permit a party unregistered and a party registered. It is only when contested.
That's what
When contested on the
So
IC,
we've just
you
gone
will not
around the
submit-
circle to just say the same thing.
So I think
you said the
there
same
is something that I just want to clear. When we started this was 18 April when we met at Karaba Beach Hotel. UDP were there, you have GDC, APP, so there were 7 political parties. It is those 7 political parties, including the UDP, that agreed that let us invite everybody that believe in the process that we just started. That's why you have all the movements that came in. And as I just said, I believe it's not a matter of trust here. What's happened is we are looking for inclusive, a process that will allow everybody, to have the opportunity to seek for the leadership and other things. That's why we push for this, and that's why majority believe that they will see themselves more in candidate-led. And we know the political arena of this country. Every political party is being labeled in this country. Wherever a candidate comes from, the same thing. So to others, that is their argument.
Absolutely, get your point. Get your point. Come in, Mr. Bolo.
So I think what I've heard Haji say is a bit contradictory to what he had said earlier, that everything has to be in accordance to law. So if, for example, we're saying that we're going for candidate-led, and someone emerges who is not from a party, it means that our agreement has been contravened in its sense.
No.
Because then I listen to
No,
it.
just wait.
It is not a debate, we're just having a discussion.
I respect that.
So because now the candidate comes from an independent entity. And by law, the candidate cannot contest under a party banner. But the agreement of the coalition that we have signed says that you have to be a party-led candidate. Then you are disqualified naturally from the coalition discussion or becoming a candidate. Now, when we were coming up with this idea, like Mr. Nyang has said, it was more about inclusivity. Because I do believe that there are movements in this country that have more following than registered political parties. And for us, the idea was to bring everybody on board. Now, are you telling me that, for example, if there is a women CAFO in Brikama, for example, with over 30,000 registered members nationwide, and want to come and become members of this coalition discussion to bring in their might, that we will say, okay, the candidate they support, if it's an independent person, cannot contest because we are going through a party-led coalition. Now, secondly, in the end, it's based on fundamental trust, character of the individual. Now, President Barrow had resigned from UDP to contest, but naturally, people who were in the coalition at the time, we heard O.J. Jallow, God rest his soul, come out and say that he felt he was in a UDP government, right? And this is no secret because he has said, things like that. So we believe that any individual that is, that we choose as a candidate has to be there for all. And this is why, in fact, what we have said is that you have to complete the whole term, be it in regard to the constitution of the country. But one of the points we have also raised is that because the coalition building process has where we are also trying to formalize and enhance and convert our manifestos as all stakeholders. One of the points we have also mentioned is that once we are elected into government, once we have a new parliament, we'll make sure that we put in a 2-term limit.
We'll go into that afterwards.
That is something that we have also
here,
agreed on.
Let's just move on before Ali and Mr. Dabade come in. Now, what is the glue for this opposition? Is it that you have a common enemy called NPP? You want to dislodge them? Or what are the policies that sort of you rally around, the points of convergence, specific policies that bind you together instead of simply having a common enemy? We've seen in 2016, that was really one of the weaknesses. There was really nothing arranged for post-elections and when you win. So what are the policies that you agree on, apart from the fact that, well, we want to dislodge NPP?
Basically we have taken that into account. because it's not about only removing the president. But after removing the president, what are the plans for the Gambian people? As I said, the problem that we have is with the system that is in this country. So for that being the case, it has been a learning process to all of us. That's why in that room, we are trying to build programs that we believe that this will be the agenda to be sold to the Gambian people. So the difference will be, obviously, the failures that this government have registered, and how possible is it for us to at least bring a system that will address the challenges that we are facing as Gambians. One, it has to do with the constitution. We all know that there were so many trials that were made. Still now we could not get a new constitution. It is part of the program, the security sector reform is stuck. We have problem of corruption. So, you know, basically I can say almost in all sectors, we are working tirelessly to make sure that at this we will have a program that is going to be anchored by the flag bearer, inshallah, if he happens to win to become the president. And these are the programs that we are going to build this country on. So,
Okay.
so basically,
I'm going to press further,
Yes.
and then you can come in.
Yes.
Education,
yes,
policies.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
are the convergences?
yeah,
What do you agree on? Education, health.
Yes.
This is really what
Yes.
policies
Yes.
mean.
Yes.
Yes, obviously, when you look at the educational system, I think it has to do with our curriculum. Looking at the skills gap that is happening now, we believe that is creating more unemployment, and we believe as a responsible government, as a responsible coalition, we are working towards making sure that at least we will have an educational system that will close the skills gap one, and we are also working to make sure that an educational system that will be based on science and technology, because the COVID can serve as a very good example when it hit us. But still now, what do we learn from it as a country? Still now, nothing. Tomorrow, if there was another COVID, that means these kids have to stay away for 6, 7, or 8 months, like how it happens in the past. So I believe everything that has been happening for the past 10 years, it has been a learning process to all of us that are in the room, and these are the things that we are capitalizing to make sure that all the sectors that we realize they are failing this country, we are trying to work around it to come up with a concrete policies that we believe it is not going to be limited on papers, but it is going to work on the
To
ground.
come up with concrete
Yes.
policies.
So-
So you haven't got
No,
policies
we have.
yet.
We have.
No, where do you-
We have.
No.
So
So
I just
what
wanted to
are
add
they?
on that.
Yes.
Yes. So first of all, your question was, what is the glue?
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
policies, particular policies,
yeah.
all these different sectors
Yes.
that you agree on.
Yes. So one of the main important glues we have is the Gambian people. The Gambian people, the wishes and the aspirations of the Gambian people. Now, when it comes to the draft manifesto we have built, we all have it as partner stakeholders. One of it, for example, like education. What we are focused on as a coalition government will be to focus on TVET and make sure that we harness the demographic dividend that the Gambia.
But that's what NPP is doing, focusing on Tibet.
No,
At what
yes.
level?
So
At what level
no.
becomes
I mean,
harm?
How would you
so,
improve it? How
Mr.
would you
Mbod,
improve it?
So, Mr. Mbod, so anything a government comes in today will be something that has been said by a previous government. Now it's about how you implement your programs and what best way you think will be able to address those issues. For example, today you talk about the cost of living. When NPP came into power, they said they were going to, even President Barrow said that the bag of rice was going to be $800. How much is the bag of rice today? How much were we buying bread in 2016? It was $6. How much are we buying bread today?
What can you do?
So this
about
is what we're
about
saying.
the cost of living
So the
crisis?
cost
What
of
can you
living,
do?
what our focus is as a party, and now bringing it into the coalition, because we have asked all parties to bring in their manifesto, where we look at converging positions. One is to see that we produce as a country. Now you look at the consumption of the Gambia, almost 86% of what we consume is imported. Today, What's on Gambia reported that a lot of expired food is in the market. I don't see how, for example, CRR cannot be a producing hub for rice. That's one. Two, we used to have a cotton ginnery in URR. Today, Gambians wear a lot of traditional wear. How come we cannot produce, our own material?
Granted.
Yeah.
But you also realize that these things are like intermediate or longer term projects.
Yes.
Immediately we face something.
Yeah.
What can one do immediately?
Cost of living.
Very quickly, yes.
Yeah, cost of living is our main focus, and fighting crime. So cost of living, one is producing food. Because for example, when you look at Nerika, it takes six to 8 weeks to produce. What you do is that you form a credit union, bring young farmers in the CRR region together, empower them, enhance them, and then they produce. Okay. When you look at crime, for example, all you need to do is we have astute men and women in our service. All you need to do is empower them with resources to be able to challenge crime.
Okay. Mr. Sowane, do I take it that maybe this is a point of convergence?
Anyway,
with your coalition.
Before he comes.
Just hold that thought, So
yeah,
do you agree with that on these things they're thinking about in education and other things? Do you agree?
Yeah, your point is about the
Similar.
coalition. Your point was about the coalition. Here we are not talking about talking on these issues as individual political parties. I think the point you raise or the question you raise is about what is the current policy alternative from the coalition against the system that we have. For me, I think that is what this coalition needed to do first.
Which was?
Instead of
representatives there. Maybe,
Yes,
you should tell them to bring it on.
I'm coming on. You know, there are different ideas that went there. Our members participated to talk about issues of reform, policy, reconciliations, before we consulted how we see our power. That is our position. Our position in the coalition discussion is before we talk about issues to ourselves, let's address the system versus Gambian people. And you cannot talk about the system versus Gambian people if you don't know the problems that is affecting Gambian people and the solutions that can, get them out of that system.
What do you mean the system? Is it different from the government? What do you mean by the system?
The system, I mean the governance system in place.
What is the government system?
The government system today, Coalition 2016 was built on a project, and that project includes reforms. But we see along the line, it deviated. 2021, again, we continue to go through the same lack of having reforms, be it constitutional, be it security sector reform, be it economic reform. The same trend that we accuse the Jammeh regime to be doing, it is the same line of operation, government operational, implementation process. So for UDP, we believe any coalition that want to deliver for Gambian people, before concentration on power sharing, the first is to look at how do we take Gambia from the level we are to the other direction that might have a positive impact on their lives. But unfortunately, some are focusing on how do we share positions, what council do govern the government. So this is what I mean that
in the
the
end, you feel
here,
that personality...
the discussions here are discussions by their policies, by their parties, but not the coalition.
So,
the coalition did
so
not
you
do
mean
that.
personality?
Yes.
Mr. Young, then my two panelists can come in here.
At this, if I chip in to bring clarity on some of the things, because for the manifesto, I think we have talked about that months ago. So this is not now, and we have come up with 25 points manifesto. So that was the power sharing issue.
Just came
the
on
framework
last
was stable. That was last week.
So
Last week Saturday.
We had already worked on
So
policies.
for the 25-point manifesto, every party, including the UDP, UNITE, and every other political entity,
Gave in inputs.
they give their input, and we have the 25-point manifesto already. And we have the long term and we have the short term.
100
So
days.
that is the 100 days of our coalition in the event that we happen to win in 2026. So basically, we already know what are the problems, and we have made our submissions in addressing those problems before talking about the issue of power sharing. Because as far as we are concerned and where we are getting to, obviously, if everything should go as we planned it, I think we will have just few weeks before we finally, address the issue of flag bearer.
Okay, Mr. Boya, before you come in, my two panelists. Hello.
Certainly before you come,
Okay, all right.
I wanted to say this to Mr. Swane. So it looks you are not comfortable with the framework that is set for the coalition, or coalition building. Okay, so and then again, I would say, coming from a position of strength, like electoral strength, like you alluded to as a member of the UDP as the biggest opposition party, what would have think or suggest at some point that you should have initiated your own coalition discussion and set a framework before we get here? So now that there is a discussion in place and there's a framework in place, it becomes difficult now for your party to accept that framework based on what is on the table. And the likeliest situation is, like what Ali said, that there might be a coalition without UDP. That could be the likeliest situation. Are you foreseeing that?
If there is a coalition without the UDP, it doesn't, send out the notion that we cannot get the system out here. I would agree on a point that Kemo raised earlier, that it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a coalition to be able to get the system that we are fighting against out. Coalitions are ideas, but Gambian people are the last to decide who they want to vote for or who they want to have in government. You can have a coalition here. At the end of the day, you might not be able to convince Gambians to vote for that coalition to get the system out here. But we believe with the current trend that the party is on, with or without a coalition, which I believe UDP will form an alliance with, I don't know how many parties will be involved, even if this one, as you are saying rightly, because I'm not seeing it fail, but as you are saying, if it fails, UDP will be in an alliance with political parties that share the same vision or the same ideas or the same line of thinking. We will have an alliance with them.
So that's what I'm saying. Now, if that is the situation, why didn't your party initiate coalition discussions from the outset and set a framework that will be in favor of your party instead of going against a framework that majority of a framework that you are part of now? That's what I'm trying to say.
Prior to these coalition discussions,
yes,
both the Apex and the ADD-led coalition discussions, UDP was engaging political parties, but if an independent organization like Apex invited political parties to participate in coalition formation, UDP is obliged to respond. To me, my understanding, we are obliged to respond. Going back to your question that why didn't we have our own framework in terms of coalition building, UDP was engaging political parties, and we have our own suggestions, ideas, and approaches. How do we think we can have a government even without a coalition? But how do we also think that we can engage other partners to form a government so that we can have an inclusive governance system that can build the trust and confidence of Gambian people with, a trend that can yield a result? All of us can definitely, have an impact positively.
Okay.
So we have initiated it before.
I'll end it there before I come to Kemo and Desi. You talk about the Gambian people. And then the last opinion poll from SEPRA says 49% of Gambians favored an opposition coalition. So it means you
combined.
All of them combined. Yeah. And it means now when you talk about the will and aspiration of the people, your position is going away from the will and aspiration of the people.
But never forget also,
that's the understanding in that situation.
But never, don't also left behind that almost over 30-something% went in favor of if UDP and others contested, UDP became the top in the same survey you talk about.
Well, the one I have here, from SEPRAS,
yes,
released January 29th, 2026,
yes.
Party standings and voting intentions. NPP Alliance leads with 34%. UDP for 14.7%. Is this the same one you're referring to?
It could be. But I was on a panel here.
We have to be certain.
I was on a panel here.
It was released January. I think this is the latest, January 2026.
I was on a panel here.
It's NPP.
This is when we had 2% and everybody was like,
yes.
And I'm like, but then we're just 2 months old.
So the statistic is that an NPP-led coalition has 34% chances.
Yes.
UDP has 14%
chances.
This is
a combined coalition has 49 chances.
My point is there, which he did not read. My point is there, which he did not read.
Yes.
This is a perception that Gambian people are in for coalition. Yes. But when the breakdown went further, you would see that UDP versus then other parties, you will see UDP became top. In fact, even beating the MPP.
In what was it? What was measured there?
The measure was if individual parties must stand without coalition, which party would you vote for?
Yes.
UDP became top.
No, it says NPP.
No.
Okay, that can be fact checked
Yes.
later on. I'm sure Said Matijau will have something to say about
that
this.
brings me to I'm pursuing the earlier intervention of the eligibility criteria.
Yeah.
based on the criteria that you have set, who is eligible to lead the coalition? Any of you can come up.
When we were coming up, when the eligibility criteria came, I believe UNITE had put in a position paper, very robust one, two-pager. And, well, two different, because we believe that there are some eligibility criteria that are subjective, that are going to be based on perception, right? And there are some that are yes or no answers based on constitutional requirements. Like, is the person a Gambian? Is the person, does the person have all that the Constitution has said? But there are some, for example, like, because there's one, I believe, that says that no history of sabotaging coalition in the past.
Things,
So those are things that, you know, it's based on a perception thing. So our position has always been to center the people. Now, take it up as a survey to the Gambian people and ask them so-and-so question, who do you think fits the criteria the most? Now, this is still under debate. We still haven't agreed on what is the best metric to use. A metric was brought forward last week, but I think it was scraped off, if I'm not mistaken, which is the weighing system.
Yeah, not basically. Still now is in play, but we are inviting options, alternatives.
Well, based on the criteria.
He was talking about the one that was tabled before you.
Yes. Now, based on the criteria.
Yes.
For the criteria, the weighing system was out.
Yes.
Now, based on the power sharing is where we need to determine if we keep the weighing system or not. Yes, but based on criteria, the weighing system is out. So still, we need to sit as stakeholders to come up with a position to say that, okay, for the yes or no answers based on the constitutional requirements, we know that is doable. Now, how do we determine, the rest of the questions? Now, we need to decide that as a group, and then see how best do we move.
Okay, you two. Before you come, you can just join these two together. Well, you've laid out your points of convergence. What are your points of divergence between GDC and UNITE?
Basically, I know it's going to be a very difficult question to answer.
Why is that? Do you agree on everything?
Then
become one party.
Yeah, that's because we did not get to everything. So along the way, we can have our difference.
You mean so far you agreed on everything?
But even so far, the differences
what
that we
are the
have.
Differences?
So far, the differences that we have, I think we were able to settle it in the room.
For instance,
and we have a one standing point.
What? Name one. That you had a difference, then you ironed it out. Name one.
He might not spill the beans here.
Basically, I would not want to give one.
We are journalists. We need to know everything.
Because honestly,
transparency.
We have a code of conduct, and there are certain differences that are only limited in the room, because that's exactly where it happens. But we do have our differences, not only with UNITE, with UDP, including the rest of the other political entities.
But why do you limit that to the room? If you are
that's
there for Gambians, why do you limit that divergence in the room?
Yeah, that's because we were able to overcome it, and we agreed to it. That's what I'm saying. You cannot expect to bring 20 political entities without differences. So whenever we have that differences, we try to employ consensus. If we are very fortunate to overcome the differences, then that becomes the position of everybody. So that's why those differences are always overcome in the room, and we have our one standing point that represents all of us. So, and I think it's also very important, maybe in the term of eligibility criteria, that is for the flag bearer. We also have the selection criteria for the presidential candidate. So that's when this is going to be test one. Where the shortlist will come for the 20 political entities, whether all the leaders in that room, they are qualified in line with the eligibility criteria. So the final shortlist have to come. Then from that shortlist, that's where we will have our presidential candidate.
Okay.
Yes.
I will come in.
I just want to add on to one thing,
quickly,
especially when you said what are our divergence. So at UNITE, we have always pushed the position that we do not have an opposition. I've said that multiple times. We have said that the current realities and disadvantages that we are facing in the country are our opposition. And when we started as a political party, we said we wanted to be an umbrella where every Gambian felt that the spirit of unity brings us together. Now, this is why when we started our party, we went to every political leader to meet them and sell the idea to them that we have started a new party. In the room, we disagree. But per se, I have not or I don't remember any time where UNITE and GDC has openly disagreed on anything. Now, generally, with other parties or with other positions, we do. And then what has been great is that we have been able to build consensus on majority of the things.
Oh, there's a bromance here.
Once again, thank you very much, Mr. Mboj. I know time is running out. Election is just in December. When should we expect the final flag bearer or probably the presidential candidate for the coalition? Because time is running out.
Yeah, that's true, and we are very conscious about that. Now we are working towards 8 August, and we are very hopeful that we'll be able to meet all the agreements that are needed. Then by 8 of August, we can have our presidential candidate.
So the other thing earlier on, I mean, you mentioned the issue of candidate lead, and then this candidate lead will still come from a particular political party.
Will still come.
Entity.
Political
We
entity.
have changed the language
Yes,
to
entity.
be more inclusive. to
Yeah,
political
exactly.
entity.
But it still remains the fact that the particular person is identical with a particular political party. How sure are you? How sure are you? Kemo mentioned a scenario like the case of President Barrow, who resigned from UDP to lead the coalition. When he won in 2016,
Some coalition partners.
exactly. So many people perceive it was more of a UDP government because the fact of the matter is that he is from the UDP. That you cannot take away from that individual. So how so are we that even in the event that, okay, this coalition happens to win, we will not go back to the same situation? Look, Ibrahim can say, okay, today I have to stand from the GDC, but you cannot take the GDC out of Ibrahim. So once you get into the State House, it's a different thing. And like I said, I mean, our laws give the winner takes all. At the end of the day, this agreement might not be binding. They might say this might contravene the Constitution. Who can come after you? No one. So that's my fear. How so are you that with this candidate lead, we'll not go back to the same thing that we experienced in 2016, 2017?
What are the safeguards?
Safeguards.
For instance, what are the safeguards?
Basically, I will not get into the agreement that is being drafted now by the CMC, but I think all of these things have been well stated in the agreement with the candidate. Because as I just stated earlier on, the 2016 is a learning process to all of us, and we have seen how things turn out to be. And we are trying to have our safeguards to make sure that those things will not happen. But at the end of the day, it's all about moral contract, irrespective of what we said here. So it depends on the individual. You have your agreement, you are committed to an agreement as you stated. At the end of the day, no matter the agreement that we have, the Constitution supersedes it, which we respect. But it's all down to the individual and the agreement that we will place. And the commitment is going to be with the Gambian people, because the day that the flag bearer is going to be chosen, after the flag bearer has been chosen, before that, all the agreement will be reviewed and will be signed by all parties. But we have an agreement for the flag bearer, which will be pronounced publicly, where the media and everybody will be invited. But I know even beside these things, we have other safeguards that are in the agreement. But since we are yet to get there, I think it will be very premature, maybe to get into the agreement.
But also you have to understand, the
Yes.
electoral cycle doesn't just end with the presidential election.
No.
You have the parliamentary election, you have the local council. What are you discussing regarding that as well?
No, when it comes to, we are discussing through the election cycle. That is for not just the presidential. That's why even the that is the guiding framework, you know, is from 2026 up to 26, 27, 28, I believe, up to 28. Then it involves all the elections. That is from the presidential, you have the NAM elections, you have the local government elections. And even the power sharing that we are discussing now, it contains all.
Absolutely.
So
and once you've signed, you will publish it.
No. So far we have already signed 3.
But this
and
is
on
the
Sunday,
key.
we are about to sign 2.
Okay, let's move quickly. This is the key.
Yes.
You keep referring to this moral contract.
Yes.
A moral contract is really not a contract. There's nowhere you can go to enforce it. You have to rely on my conscience.
Yes.
We saw the gentleman's agreement. That's what 2016 was.
Yes.
Afterwards, what happened?
Yes.
You have said that things would be binding. How would you make them binding? If somebody ignores it, where can you go to redress? That's the whole point of being binding, isn't it? How do you make sure of that?
What we have been speaking about has been that how do we build a system that works, a system that represents every player within the discussions we're having, but generally also the wishes and aspirations of the Gambian people. Now, for example, most of the things that we have signed already are issues that are backed by the Constitution. Now, the only position that you would say that it's based on the morality of the individual will be when it comes to the power sharing agreement. Now, in the power sharing agreement, the Constitution does give the president the discretion to hire and fire, right? So this is something that we know. But this is why, for example, we have safety nets along how appointments are going to be done. But granted also, this is why the issue of parliamentary elections are important in the conversation. Because when you look at the Constitution we want to bring in, which is the 2020, is it 2020 draft?
Or the 2024? Which one?
Yeah, the 2020 draft.
You wanna go?
Yes. Because, you know, to have a cabinet, someone being ascended to cabinet, it has to go through the National Assembly. So this is why we need to make sure that we have a new constitution once we have a new government, to make sure that these safety nets are also in place. In the end, this is where, for example, even the governance, the governing council comes in. Now, these are things that we cannot say now because they are premature, but these documents will be public documents. And this is why whenever we have meetings, we go back to our executives, who go back to the people to ask for feedback.
Okay, so we'll wait for that. Mr. Suwane, what are your red lines?
Yes, particularly where Kemo landed with the issue. Parliament is after the president. It is not the president after parliament. Then the discretion of the president is taken before even parliament. Having the new constitution in place, you must have a parliament that is going to endorse that draft constitution. And the reality shows us that the existing parliament will be the parliament in early 2027, when this government will be newly elected. So to retable such a document before a parliament that has a history of rejecting is going to be risky for the government. So you cannot have the issue of confirmation in appointments unless and until you have the 2020 draft been approved, taken to referendum, endorsed by two-thirds majority of Gambian citizens.
Okay, that's to do with the constitution.
Yes.
Yeah, I really want to know about your red lines for being in a coalition. What is it that you are not going to compromise on?
One of them is that they might say there's no unconstitutional suggestions, but for me, things going against the discretion of the executive is pushing, for me, what I believe, the right that is given to that particular executive. And to have a governing council proposal, as they stated, they said it's a proposal as of now, against executive decision makings, because they said influence. So the executive might take a decision, even if it is constitutionally guaranteed, that governing council's decision might supersede what the executive has already said. For me, that's part of a red line. I'm not legally minded, but I can say is contrary to what the constitution stated as far as discretions made by the president is concerned.
So this you will not compromise on?
Yeah,
yes. Okay, we've got that very well.
Exactly.
We got that very
we cannot compromise on that. Yeah.
Your red
I
lines.
said it will
You will come back. What are your red lines that you really cannot compromise on because that's your identity, that's your core? What would be that? Do you have any?
Yeah, I think the red line has to do with term limit as far as this is concerned. That's why we emphasize in the coalition that it is very important to make sure that part of the agreement, it will contain the term limit, because at least we want to set the pace. That's why in the last agreement that we made in regards to the guiding framework, it was well stated that the candidate must serve only 2 terms. So because we believe it's important at least to welcome new breeds in leadership, different ideas. So that's why we push for it as a party.
So that's yours.
Yeah.
Mr. Bojang, your red line.
Yes,
you cannot stop, you cannot compromise.
One of our red lines, and I think we advocated for it hugely last week during the conversation, was that any decision that is going to be taken by the coalition building process has to be one where a precedence has already been set, that every institution or every entity in that room has a vote. We have to base it on those principles. Now, you cannot say that everybody has contributed the same amount to host a meeting. You cannot say that everybody has contributed to make sure that we buy equipment for the secretariat. Now, when it comes to decision making, you want to base it on weighing systems. Now, when this was brought to the table, where all the stakeholders were, we championed against that, to say that we do not believe this is fair to everyone. We feel that it should be based on a position that has already been taken, where everybody had a single vote.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that is a red line.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, Aliu and Mr. Dabo, we've come to the end now.
Yeah.
What chance of a united front from what you've heard?
Can I?
Okay, Aliu, go first.
For me, you ask me, I'll tell you, when I listen to all what they said, is that one must go out. Unite or UDP. I don't see this would fitting in the same room, in the same coalition. I don't see that happening.
Mr. Dabo?
From what I've heard, and based on my observation, there will be a coalition in 2026
Alhamdulillah.
without UDP.
That's what I observed. That's an honest one.
Yes.
Fair play.
Yeah, that's what I observed. Yes, that's what I. But I definitely wanted to put Kemo on the spot here on this party-led, this candidate-led stuff.
Go on.
So this issue came up in June. In June, if I get your dates right, in June, I think on the 20th, and then coincidentally, the meeting where the issue of candidate-led was endorsed was hosted by Unite. So is this candidate-led initiative
did we influence it?
not in fact a Unite initiative?
No, not really. Like Mr. Nyang said, before GDC came, they had already had the position of a candidate-led position.
Yeah.
Every party comes there with your position. Now, I respect UDP for coming forward and saying that this is my position. But that's the same right we have to say that this is also our position. Now, when we got into the room, granted, we hosted that meeting. But I mean, there we build consensus. And when you build consensus, you look for allies. And when you look for allies, when discussions are had, if voting takes place, the majority carries it. So when discussions were made, everybody tabled why you thought it would be best. One, like he said, the issue of inclusion. Two, you need a mass political ecosystem for democracy to thrive. With the scenarios we have seen in Gambia, if we have a party-led system in a government for 10 years, I can tell you that the opposition will become fragile. This is a position that we hold at Unite, that we need a mass and vibrant opposition. But knowing what has happened in 2016, high tendency that if one party gets into that place and serves for 2 terms of 10 years, before 2036, we might not be very vibrant. In
I like the fact that you mentioned about the issue of having a vibrant opposition. Certainly, I stated in our last program, we have certain political parties that are just briefcase political parties. They just want to be part of it, to be in power. But in terms of funding, you haven't touched that.
Yes.
It's one thing to say, okay, we agree to form a coalition, all that. Funding, who brings what on the table? Because you're going to come there with empty hands and you want to be, you want to be the loudest.
A very important question. Yet to
it's expensive.
Yeah, yet to be tabled on how the funding is going to be. Okay. I know it's not only going to be limited to the political entities in the room. We will also request or appeal support from Gambians all over the world. Anyone that can chip in anything as far as this process is concerned will be highly welcome. I think last week, if I'm right, I think somebody raised, somebody raised about
and also
that.
there was a suggestion to even set up a committee from different parties to have a fundraising committee.
So yes, exactly. So already we have a page where we have representatives from different political entities, when it comes to fundraising, where they can help work closely with the committee that is on the ground to see where we can tap funds, because we have so many activities ahead where we will need funds in order to go ahead with those activities.
So also just to add on to that, because you said there are parties that, what do they bring to the table? So when we talk about coalition, it's not just about numbers, for example, or not just about your financial muscle. There are people that bring credibility to the table. There are people that bring ideas. There are people that bring votes. There are people that bring financial support. So for us as a party, we see that when we talk about a coalition, everybody brings in something. That's valuable. Okay. That's something.
So it seems we've come to the end of the program. Well, as we conclude today's discussion, one thing appears to be crystal clear. For the opposition, the road to the December elections may not be walked alone. It's going to be a coalition, possibly. Well, for Gambians, however, the bigger questions remain. Will political parties build a coalition that is both consequential and credible? And if they do, will they honor the commitments they make to the people? Those are among the defining questions of 2026. My thanks to our guests, my colleagues, Mr. Aloy Cisse and Mr. Ibrahim Dabo, and right here, Mr. Ibrahim Nyang, and on his side, Haji. Huh?
Your uncle for that.
my uncle. My mother is a Nyangan. And on his side, Mr. Haji Suwan of the UDP. Thank you very much. And Mr. Kimo Bojang of UNITE. Thank you very much, folks. Well, viewers, thanks for joining us. Next week, we'll have another pillar. But I'm not going to tell you what it's going to be. You have to join us to find out. Cheers. I'm Mahmoud. Good night.